Today, we are very happy to receive here Professor Sonja and Professor Rafael. They are the different. They live in Canada, but now Sonja is in Croatia and Rafael in Canada. Thanks for welcome, for stay here with us. Elisangela, I think you can organize uh, now, and then we start when you say it's good. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Davi. Hello, ladies and gentlemen present here. Good afternoon, everyone. It is with great pleasure that we begin our seminar OBSCOOP, Role of Cooperatives for Social Innovative Towards Circular Economies and Societies. On behalf of OBSCOOP, I would like to welcome everyone present. Today, we come together to discuss a topic of growing importance in the global stage. How cooperatives can lead and promote the transition to a circular economy. We live in the time when sustainability and innovation are fundamental to face the economic and environment challenges that arise. Cooperatives, with their model based on cooperation, solidarity, and sustainable development, are particularly well positioned to play crucial role in the transition. And first, I would like to thank our speakers today, Professor Rafael and Ziegler and Sonja Novkovic, for accepting for the invitation, the participation, and make this seminar and the discussion on social innovation and circular economy and the involvement of cooperatives with the top possible. So I also thank you, my colleagues at OBSCOOP, Professor Davi, Flávia, Ricardo, and Mateus, and all for you participants for being here with us today. Without everyone's support and engagement, this event would not be possible. Today includes two lectures, and I believe it will bring us a lot of learning. We hope that this seminar will not only increase our understanding of the role of cooperatives in social innovation towards circular economies and society, but also inspire concrete actions and future collaborations. I would like to remember everyone that questions can be asked via chat, and at the end of the presentations, we will have a moment and questions and answers. Okay. To begin, I would like to introduce for first speaker, Professor Rafael Ziegler. Rafael, who is director of the Institut International des Coopératives Alphonse-et-Dorimène-Desjardins and professor at HEC Montréal. He holds BC from London School of Economics and the PhD from McGill University. He is associate editor of the Journal of Human Development and Capabilities and the Journal of Social Entrepreneurship and member of the Quebecois Network for Research in Circular Economy. Rafael has published the books Creating Economic Space for Social Innovation and Innovation Ethics and Our Common Futures. When he was schooled in Germany, the Chernobyl nuclear accident happened. A group of parents responded creatively, funding in energy cooperatives that took over the local grid. And in doing so, significantly contributing in energy transition. Inspired by such innovators from early age, Rafael interested in innovations and ideas contributing to transformations towards sustainability. His research perspective is inspired by the capability approach. Professor Rafael will offer as overview and dividing circularity. With those of third audio, I turn the floor over Professor Rafael. Thank you very much, and a great seminar, everyone. Professor Rafael.
Thank you very much, Elisangela. Thank you very much, Davi and colleagues, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to meet you, even if it's virtual. And I hope you can hear me now. Is it okay? Perfect. Good. So now I only have to manage slide share. One moment. Oh, 1 second. All right. Can you see something? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
All right. So I put it like this, then okay, nice. Good. So thanks again for the invitation. So the idea was to have some inputs on circular economy and cooperatives. So I will start, and then Sonja will add on the topic of governance. And what I wanted to present to you today is basically say some things about the partnership that we have created on social economy, cooperatives, and circular economy. Then how we use the concept of embedding for thinking about these matters. And then talk specifically about one point of this partnership, which is the circular business models, because we thought with Sonja that I could start with that, and then she will go to the larger topic of the governance, which, you know, of course, is at the heart of cooperatives, and in which Sonja is really the big expert. So now that change here. Good. So this partnership, I'll start with that, is funded by the Canadian Social Science and Humanities Research Council, with partners in Europe and the Americas, including in Brazil. We started last year, and very important for us, we also have some partners of practice. So the CQCM, that is the Quebec Federation of Cooperatives. The TIES is a transfer organization for socio-ecological transition and how to communicate it to different partners. And of course, the ICA, you know what that is. And the goal of this partnership, we basically have three main goals in our first phase. And the first one is basically due to the fact that if you're interested in the topic of cooperatives and circular economy, at this point, it's not very easy to actually even find a lot of data. So we said the first task that we will have is to create a digital and open access database so that it's easier to find information about co-ops and circular economy. The second one is to say, okay, if this is a new topic, how are we even going to think about it? And here we were inspired by this topic with a long history, of course, in social economy of embedding. So I would like to say something about that. And then the third part, linked to our partners of practice. Our ambition is to say, yes, we want to do a research project, but it should also be useful to our partners of practice, and we want to develop it together with them. So having training modules and tools that ideally can help new entrepreneurs who want to create co-ops, or established actors who say, okay, circularity is interesting for us, but how can we go a bit further? So these are the main 3 objectives, and I would just briefly like to introduce what we have been doing so far in these respects. First point, digital open access database. So here we have the benefit that as part of our institute, we have something which is called the Portail Co-op. And the idea behind this Portail Co-op is to say, if we want to have more interest in cooperatives at universities, in our current world, it's really important to have easy access, open access to digital information on cooperatives. So this is the Portail Co-op. I invite you to visit it. It's for free. You can just make your account and then you have access to it. You can also upload your own research on it. So it's really meant as a tool for co-op researchers and for cooperatives. And as part of this Portail Co-op, we have collections. And one collection is the collection that we started as part of this partnership on circular economy. And this collection basically includes 3 categories. Toolbox. So here are tools for a co-op who says, okay, I want to do something about circular economy, but what tools exist that can help me? Knowledge. Here you can find research. Let's say if you're interested in waste pickers, what kind of articles are already available on waste pickers, recycling, and cooperative. And thirdly, of course, it's always nice to get inspired. So examples of circular co-ops. At the moment, these are examples from Quebec. As part of this international partnership, our ambition is that by 2026, there will really be examples from all over the world to show the diversity and differences also of cooperatives around the world. And you see the collection is called a concept embedded in the cooperative tradition, where you see on the left is a picture from Solio, which is an old agricultural producer cooperative of Quebec, very big, well established. On the right side, you see the Centrale Agricole, which is a new urban agriculture hub here in Montreal. And what we wanted to convey with that is that on the one hand, circular economy is kind of a new, fancy, fashionable topic with exciting new things like urban agriculture. At the same time, it's something that's not new at all. It's something that is very deeply embedded in different ways in which cooperatives have, for example, for a long time thought we need to share tools, we need to share machinery, we have to have shared ownership. And that is actually very deeply linked to what we need if we want to have circular economy. And therefore to say, okay, it is in a sense already embedded in the cooperative tradition. And therefore, if we study cooperatives, there's maybe lots of interesting things that we can discover if we explore this link between co-ops and circular economy. And so to advance on this idea of creating a digital open access database with our 12 partner universities. So in Canada, this is St. Mary's with Sonja's team. But you see here is also other countries. We have in each country, we started looking for what kind of examples of circular cooperatives we can find. So you see, so right now it is about 700 co-ops in these countries. And we also prepared a survey to ask some different aspects of their experience with circularity. You can see here to date, 181 have responded. And we hope that over the time of this partnership, these kind of initiatives will give us good empirical knowledge to better understand both what are circular economy co-ops doing, but also what are their challenges and what kind of support they might need in order to become more circular. Because I don't know if I can just get in the way. One big challenge of this, so circular economy has become a very popular concept, but if you look into the data, the world is not at all circular, right? We're very far from circularity. So there is more talk than reality of circularity. And so for this partnership, we said, okay, let's get inspired by ecological economics, because circularity in many ways is kind of a way in which sustainability is right now made practical. And as you know, for sustainability, very often we have this picture, there's 3 pillars, 1 pillar economy, 1 pillar society, and 1 pillar the environment. So we have this house and people say we need to have all pillars. But if you think about this, this is a kind of a strange metaphor, because you can have no house that's not standing on the earth, right? But you can have the earth without a house. So that's why we are inspired by this ecological economics approach, which says, yes, the economy is very important and it's moving a lot of things, but you cannot have an economy if you do not have a society that embeds it, that regulates it, that has its norms and so forth. And you cannot have any human society if you do not have a larger planet Earth in which all these ecosystems provide the services and the place in which societies can flourish. So this is the kind of initial inspiration. And why is this important? Because when you talk about circular economy, here is one way in which it's often presented in Quebec. We have this idea for a long time. We had an approach, let's extract resources, let's make products, let's distribute them, use them, and then they get thrown away, right? So this is the linear production consumption idea. And the result, as we know it, is a lot of waste and a lot of pollution. And that's why we live in climate emergency and in big unsustainability. And so the idea is, let's move towards a circular economy where we can start rethinking the extraction. So what kind of mode of resource extraction and consumption is good? How can we optimize then the goods that are produced by having a more intense product use? So for example, sharing tools and not just everyone owning the same tool, but having a more intense use. Cars mostly stand around, right? Can there be more car sharing to optimize the use? Extend the life of products and components. That means, can we repair them better so that they don't have to be thrown away directly after 1 or 2 uses? Thirdly, once you can no longer repair or reuse, are there ways of rediscovering parts of these resources as an input for something else? So include them back into the production process. So this is a very big and fascinating field with many options. At the same time, for our topic, there is, of course, a question. This is a production function. So when you look at this kind of graph, and there are many variations of it, there's a question, where is the social in this circular production function, right? Where is the society? Remember, I had this circle graph here. So we have here a lot of economy, a lot of production, but we have relatively little information on society in the circular economy, or in co-op terms, maybe, who are the owners of the circular economy? And so that's why it's, there is a kind of recurrent diagnosis that right now, when we talk about circular economy, what is very often the prevailing perception and discourse is a kind of green circular economy, meaning, so here's a citation from an article, transition towards a circular economy as a politically neutral, technology-driven process of efficiency, improvement, and expansion of green markets. So all this is important and interesting, but at the same time, as you can see from this definition, it kind of does not say much beyond efficiency and technology. But we know, if we look into emerging circular economy projects, this is going to be really insufficient if we say circular economy is some sort of concept to move us towards more just and inclusive, sustainable societies. Because already for business models, there's all kinds of questions. Who has access to circular products? What kind of culture do we need between enterprises so that they actually create circular value chains? Circular production is nice, but recycling is often dangerous. So there's a question about health and occupational benefits. For example, of all these waste pickers who have to take care of the global trash. There is the topic of commodification of labor. A lot of the recycling and circular economy work is done in a very gendered way and not in a remunerated way. So there's a question of social inclusion and who is included in this. Moving out of these society things, there's the question of technology choice. A lot of the green economy, circular economy, is basically driven by supply. So let's build big recycling centers and then hope we have sufficient demand, so sufficient waste that gets into it, so that it's that it can feed the machine. And so there's a big question here about the socio-technical context. What kind of technology choices are appropriate given the demand, right? As the co-ops would say, the needs of the members. So what kind of technology choice do we need to really have circular processes that meet the needs? And this is very important for the final point of the environment, because given that circularity rates are low and currently actually falling, there is a big question for circular economy too. if efficiency gains will not have enormous rebound effects. So we become more efficient, but since we keep on producing more, the efficiency gains is eaten up by the rebound of just producing more. And so the link between circularity and having the right scale of an economy respecting limits of ecosystems and of the planet is really something in question. And even more fundamentally, these technological choices, they do not put into question a very instrumental relation with nature as a kind of resource that you can use, linear or circular, but that is not going beyond that, right? And so there's a much deeper question: what kind of relation with nature and ecosystems is even needed if we truly want to speak of a circular society? And so, to put it in other words, or so that's how we formulated it in the project application, can we somehow move from this idea of an economy that somehow bumps into the limits of the planet towards a direction where the distributed knowledge and efficiency of markets is embedded in questions of distribution, participation, and recognition that are important for society, and this in itself within the sustainable scale and good, respectful relations to planet Earth and the environment. And this here, theoretically, can then really benefit from this long tradition started by Polanyi and others to say, if we talk about an economy, it is always embedded. Polanyi especially emphasized institutions, the rules and the norms that allow the economy to function. Granovetter and other sociologists, he added the social networks. For example, the networks that lobby for some rules or block some rules or help interpreting some rules. And then yet another sociologist added cognitive frames, a really important point. How do we even think about the economy? Linear economy, green economy, there's different interpretation possibilities, and they kind of structure what we think is legitimate or not legitimate when we think about the circular economy. And I think this embedding concept, therefore, is a very rich concept for understanding the diversity that is already there when we talk about circular economy. So as I started, a lot of the discussion, at least here in Canada, is a kind of green economy focused on technology and efficiency. If you look into China, it will be very much a kind of state capitalism driven by the states. And what interests us here is yet another variety that exists, which could be the kind of social and solidarity economy, where, to take the ILO definition, we're interested how cooperatives, associations, mutual societies, foundations, social enterprises, and self-help groups come up with norms and regulations and ways of doing that potentially circularize our relation in production and consumption. And so here, to put it in a nice picture, we can say variation on donut economy, what we really want to have. So I'm, as Davi pointed out, I'm in Montreal. So we could think of a Montreal bagel. So the bagel is a popular product here in Montreal. Maybe Elisangela has told you about it. Montreal is very proud of their bagels. And so, when we have the economy, we want to say the economy is there for society, right? For producing the bagels and what people need to eat. And at the same time, this bagel is embedded in a larger ecosystem, a planet that has to be there. And our question has to be, how can co-ops and social and solidarity economy organizations make a contribution that we really have a transformation in direction of a sustainable and inclusive society? And so this can be discussed in relation to business models, governance, technology, and the environment. And these points are interrelated. And all I want to do right now is give you one glimpse how it can be discussed in relation to the business models. And then Sonja will say much more about the governance part. So for the business models, we have the benefit that here in Quebec, we worked with this organization, the TIES, that I already mentioned, who studied with lots of partners. What are the organizations actually doing? And what you see here is the blue lines, the thick blue lines are these kind of circularity strategies. And the light blue names here are models that you can see what social and solidarity economy organizations are actually already doing. So you find quite some activity around reduction at the source and eco-design. So how to design products that they can be repaired after, for example, or that they do not produce harmful waste. then you find quite some activities here at maybe the heart of the traditional co-op model, mutualization, sharing of tools, of infrastructure, so that it's more efficiently used, but also logisticians, meaning how can you organize logistical processes if you say, okay, we want that a certain tool or container is reused between producers, different producers, or between producer and consumer. So that takes logisticians that actually organize this. So that's another model that's happening. Then on this strategy 3, you have what you, of course, is well known, secondhand shops, repair cafes, and these kind of things. And going higher up to the last bit, recoverers. So this would be organizations that say, okay, we're fighting entropy, so it's a lot of work to sort the waste again so that it can be reused as a reuse. So there's quite some recoverers, often using work insertion, so supporting, benefiting from public policies to include certain groups that have troubles entering job markets, and they are very active in this section. But you also have transformers who say, okay, with these resources, we can produce new products. So, for example, here at HEC, we're very proud of 2 students who said, in Montreal, we have a lot of microbreweries. Good beer, it's a trend, but beer production has a byproduct, which is the kind of the waste produced when you brew the beer, and this waste is very smelly. And so traditionally, it has just been put away, linear economy. And they discovered you could dry this waste, and when you dry it, you can make a new type of flour that is interesting, for example, for bakers, because it's relatively low in gluten. So this co-op would be an example of a transformer, because they found a new way in which you can use a resource that was considered as waste here in Montreal and turn it into a new product, a flour. So there's a worker cooperative called Boomerang. So they collect the waste from these breweries and produce a new product from this. So this would be another example. And then you see 2 last ones, very interesting too. Craft hubs. So craft hubs is the idea that for a circular economy, we need a lot of processes where people can have training and space to fix and repair things. And so craft hubs are basically workshops where you have access to tools, but also to people who help you how to, it can be bikes, but even more important probably is all the mobile phones that we have. How can we do that well? So there is this emergence of this craft hub model. And another really interesting one, consultants. So this is a part, the idea here is that we see the emergence of cooperatives who are specialized in consulting on circular economy strategies. So for example, here in Montreal, we have one co-op in CETA. They're specialized in advising other organizations on zero waste policies. So if you say you want to have zero waste in your organization, what are the strategies that the organization can integrate into that? So these are 10 models of circular economy that we think are interesting and are already, even if they're marginal, they are really there and they seem to be working to some extent. And in our survey, just to give you kind of a little preview, we ask, of course, what do the circular co-ops around the world think about these strategies? And you can see here something that I find very interesting in the first responses here. A high number of the co-ops said we're doing something in the domain of reduction at the source and eco-design. And this is actually very interesting from a kind of physical point, because if you think about circular economy, for a long time, the challenge has been that circular economy has focused very much on the recycling side. So when things are already produced, how can we somehow recycle them and deal with the trash? But it's very well known and very well documented. This is almost the hardest part, because we're fighting entropy and you can kind of improve incrementally, but the real action, and it's called a waste hierarchy in circular economy, has to happen in the beginning, when we say what kind of products can we do without, what can we eliminate from production, what can we eco-design differently. And so I think something really very interesting is what is happening here with the co-ops who say they do this reduction at the source and the eco-design, because this is fundamentally potentially really a very deep contribution that is needed very much if we truly want to have a transformation towards a more inclusive and sustainable economy. I know I'm running already over time, Elisangela. Just one last point that I wanted to mention is that, so with these models, what we want to do, that would be the third point of our partnership, is to say, okay, we document them, we want to understand them, like, for example, the reduction at the source, what's really going on there. And then they should also become available. And so here our partner Chess has already developed models for 8 of these business models. And so you have, you have little outlines that are made in a kind of pleasing way, so that if you are a co-op, you can understand these are the challenges, these are the ways this can be done. And our idea is for all the 10 models, so far it exists for 8, but we want for all 10 to have these kind of outlines. We have also developed a tool, CREB, which is a kind of social business canvas that is adopted specifically for co-op and circularity in 2 contexts. One is a new entrepreneur who wants to create a circular co-op. So what kind of considerations could be important to do that? Another one is an established co-op who says, okay, we would like to think about circularity. So this is what this canvas is there. And the idea is that these tools and other tools all become available online via the Portail Co-op. That's it. Thank you very much. And I need to stop somehow this screen share.
Thank you, Professor Rafael, for the excellent contributions. So, Professor David, how? Okay, that's okay.
Yes, okay. Let's go.
Thank you, Professor. Now, I would like to introduce our second speaker, Sonja Novkovic. Sonja, who is Emeritus Professor of Economics and the Academic Director of International Center for Cooperatives Management at Saint Marie University in Halifax, Canada. She is former chair and a member of the IICADD Committee on Cooperative Research. She sits on the NCBA-CLUSA Cooperative Economics Council and serves in advisory role for the Overseas Cooperatives Development Council Research Group in the US, the UNRISD Sustainable Development Performance Indicators Project, the IC World Cooperative Monitor, and the Cooperative in the Fightly Advisor Group of ICA. Sonja's research interests include theory of work and multi-stakeholders cooperatives, humanistics, governance, and cooperative management, and measures of socio-economic sustainable performance in democratic organizations. She co-edited numerous books and the social economy, cooperative governance, and cooperative economics, and is currently involved in researching on cooperatives and the circular economy, systems think, and cooperative network. Sonja will give us an overview of cooperatives network governance. Before give the floor to Professor Sonja, I would like to remind you that if you any questions, you can ask them via chat. At the end of the presentation, you will have moment and the questions and answers. Give the floor to Professor Sonja.
Thank you very much, Elisangela. I now need to figure out how to share my slides. Well, window. Okay, I think I'm having trouble getting my PowerPoint, which is, just give me a second, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I don't use this often, so bear with me. Desktop. Rafael, did you have your file open? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
It's coming.
Okay.
No.
Is it okay?
Okay, professora.
Yeah? I can move it. So you see my preamble?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, because I cannot see you any longer. So, alrighty. So thank you so much for all of this, the introduction and the time today. So as Rafael said, we're really honored to be invited and share the time with this amazing audience in Brazil. I'm talking about network governance in cooperatives, and my preamble here, or how the whole thing is laid out, is that circularity, as you heard from Rafael, as a business strategy, is an internal governance and management issue, or both. However, circularity may not be achievable without partnerships. So one single cooperative may not be able to be fully circular, and this is the part I'm interested in. Further, cooperatives themselves, oops, I'm hearing some, okay, good. So cooperatives, we think about as networked organizations. If you think about Principle 6, cooperation among cooperatives is an indication of what this could look like. And so I'll speak about how networked cooperatives are and what different types of co-op networks are around. And among those options will be that they may form complex multi-stakeholder networks, and in particular for circular design and sustainability strategies that are of interest today. And I want to see, or talk to you about what is innovative in the approach and how is this a cooperative feature. So this is the picture of the cooperative networks that we have developed through a few works, starting from my paper in 2015, and then with colleagues at St. Mary's, we've developed it further in 22 and 23. Cooperative networks are built on solidarity, and they go from informal collaborations to co-op business, so supply chains, through second-tier cooperatives and groups, from consortia to all other types, and I'll spell it out a little bit further, associations or federations, and down to complexity and complex multi-stakeholder networks. So when we think about informal networking, right, cooperatives engage in peer exchange, information sharing, give advice to each other informally. Ad hoc procurement, you have an event, you want to buy coffee, when you can think, well, where is there a cooperative producing coffee that I can get some supplies from? In co-op business, this is more strategic and more long term.
Sonja,
Yes.
I think that the slide's not moving.
Oh. Okay. Let me see you. I see it on the screen here.
And it's not in presentation mode.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. So let's do that again. Present now, it says. Window or entire screen. What do I need to click?
I think it's present now, dear Sonja.
Yes, I am in present now.
It's gonna expand on your screen.
Present the screen, maybe complete screen.
Entire screen. Let's see. No. Huh. Window. I have my presentation.
I think you have to share it again and put it in presentation mode, yeah.
Okay, where is my presentation mode here now? I have sharing, and you can see it now in the, I'm sorry, you guys.
In the I think it's there where you have the arrow.
Yeah, because I can't see you now. I just see my screen. So you're seeing now the bubbles?
Yeah.
Okay, and when I
Can
move
you
the
just
slide.
test to move this for the next slide for us?
Okay, next slide. Is
No,
this
is it
moving?
still freezing? Maybe you can try only with without the presentation mode. I think we can follow. It's okay, no problem.
No problem.
Let's see. Like this, you mean?
Yeah, and then just click on the 5 presentation just to check if it's moving.
No.
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 You can do it manually. No problem.
Well, yeah, because when I move it manually.
Yeah.
Let me see. No, it doesn't do it.
Follow you that you have changed the subject like that.
Okay, well, this is
Technical
interesting.
things. So
Yeah. Okay, so because you see I don't know what to do here. Okay, sorry, you guys, I don't use this often. So let me see here. Maybe
we all have trouble.
Yeah, can I send this to you, Elisangela? Can I send this to you and you can see? No, you won't be able because I just can't move.
You can send it to me, Sonja, if you want, and I share it.
Okay, that would be great. So let me do that. Just give me a second, stop sharing, and you can talk about something else, answer questions, Rafael, until I send this to you.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. We can talk with Rafael because Mateus sent by chat a question. So, Mateus, if you want to
okay,
talk.
so we use this time for asking some questions. Professor Rafael, I wrote on the chat, but I can ask again here. It's a question regarding circular economy. Recently in Brazil, we have this big flood in Rio Grande do Sul where thousands of people were without houses because of the full water problems of the raining. Now, my question is, how can cooperatives in Brazil and also in the world act to promote sustainability and resilience in the affected communities by using the principles of circular economy? Is it possible?
This is, of course, a difficult question. I think there's at least 2 components, right? And I'm a very bad multitasker, so I'm opening at the same time trying to. It has arrived, Sonja, just to say. It's just being analyzed, unfortunately, first, and then I'll open it. So, but it's a great question, Mateus, right? So, what is the role of this model in times of emergency? And I think there's maybe before we get to the emergency, what is kind of interesting, and I think there's now more articles about this, is these emergencies. Before the emergencies, we know we will have more of them, right? So they will come more and more, and especially for agriculture, there's all kinds of big adaptation challenges. And I think what can be said from at least the articles that I have seen is that cooperative federations have a very important role to play to provide knowledge for small-scale farmers to anticipate such things, right? So what are the kind of things you need to do in anticipation of emergencies, droughts, floods that can happen? So I think that can be a very positive role, not of individual co-ops, but more of co-op federations, on the idea that smaller co-ops, maybe they are resource deprived, they don't have enough time, but the kind of, collective force, what Sonja will talk about in a moment, of partnerships and specifically federations, I think can play a really very important role in anticipation of emergency. In the emergency itself, my personal view is that we should never forget there's by now some really very well-established co-ops who have a lot of money. So like everyone else, they have a responsibility to solidarity and support for people who are in need. So there's humanitarian crisis, I'm sure, right, with people who have lost homes and so far. And then there's in the background something really complicated, which I think Sonja maybe knows more about. So there's also mutuals who are insurers of such things, right? What happens in the insurance case of an emergency. And I think at least in Canada, there's one mutual called the Cooperatives who's trying to understand for insurance cases of flooding, for example, how can you introduce circular policies into the insurance schemes? You know, what happens with all the kind of waste and wasted materials that are produced in such emergencies? So that can be a concrete way in which you can include, circular economy into the insurance thinking of mutuals within floods, for example. But maybe Sonja can say more about it, and then I'm trying, meanwhile, to set up the PowerPoint.
Yeah, and I'll fly through those slides, but you can get them. And anyway, but just to say something about what you just said is prevention. I mean, we have to look at why did these floods, why were they so catastrophic, and can anything be done to prevent these sorts of disasters from happening? When it happens, then it's about solidarity and support. And co-ops are known to jump in. They do, and let's just plow through these.
Yeah, it's coming. One moment.
Yeah,
I have it open, and now I just.
Sorry, we should have tested this because my system just doesn't work with me here.
Yes, I can just go to. Okay, can you see the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah.
Yes.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah. So stay in this mode so that you can see us, and just get to slide 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's great. I hope everybody can see it. Yeah. Okay, so what, again, I want to work on here is within this project that Rafael described, I'm working on governance from the network perspective. And this is, again, what kinds of partnerships and linkages do cooperatives strike or need to strike in order to achieve circularity, but also more broadly, sustainability, because they have sustainability strategies that are not necessarily circular, but we, of course, want to see circularity in action as well. And so this is the picture of the types of networks that cooperatives engage in. And those are from informal collaborations, as I said already, to co-op business, supply chains, value chains that are cooperative, fair trade, co-op trade is often present. So this is the kind of network that they engage in. They build second-tier co-ops and groups. Consortia of different kinds are known to be bidding for contracts, but they're also groups themselves, such as the Mondragon Group or the Desjardins or other credit union groups and so on. Associations and federations, all cooperatives are embedded and into second-tier, third-tier networks of networks. This is the nature of the model. And so from sectoral to national or regional associations, it's something that cooperatives do, and you all know and have it in Brazil as well. And then they build up to the ICA. And complex multi-stakeholder networks, and this is where I think a lot of the circular economy interest is going to be found in the context of what we're talking about. Okay, so fly down, Rafael, to a similar picture. Actually, hang on, keep going. Just keep going. I said all of this. All right, here, co-op groups, keep going. Right, so I'll just say here, actually one slide up, I'm sorry to be jumping now from one to another, but yeah. So I want to differentiate between the networks and cooperative groups. You'll see it in this slide. I'll just quickly say it here, that cooperative groups are a different thing from cooperative networks in the sense of what I'm talking about here. And with the circular economy and sustainability in mind, these networks are created precisely to achieve this strategy of circularity, whereas the groups are, and this is Eckert's work in 2009, they are organizations are members of this group. They are autonomous and usually in the same industry, although this doesn't have to be the case. He was working on credit unions, so it was in the same industry, but we know Mondragon is a regional network of different industry, co-ops in different industries. They have a cooperative operation that's jointly owned legal entity, and the mandate is to promote success of member organizations. This is not the case of networks in the circular economy. So just to differentiate between the two. Rafael, could move me down to what I really need to talk about, which is network governance. Keep going. And one more. Okay, so the literature on network governance speaks about the structural properties of governance of groups of entities that want to work on a particular joint problem. That it could be distributed, self-governed by peers, right? So you can have governance of equals where everybody is involved in strategic direction and in operations. You may have steered with one dominant lead organization, still a member of the network, but it's dominant for different reasons. It could be because they have resources, it could be that they have legitimacy, so it dominates the network. And the third one is administered network, so administered in the sense that the members create a network administrative organization, NAO, they call it in this literature. So it's administered, this NAO, a network administrative organization, may take different shapes. It could be just a manager who does this, or it could be really an entity. But this is where cooperatives are found, and we are looking for, because they tend to create a spin-off, an organization that is going to actually drive the agenda on circularity in our case, or again, more broadly, climate change and other activities. So often you actually have this third type, but it also is different because of what you'll see in a minute. So Rafael brings us forward. So I say a little bit more about this, and you guys can have the slides, so we don't need to stay on it. Keep going. So distributed versus steered versus NAO, administered. So this is, as I said, a separate entity, institutionalized relationships, and independent collegial governance structure. Next slide, please. And keep going. Sorry about that. Okay, so when it comes to cooperative networks, the circular economy strategies, I think I mentioned already, could be internal. So it's about the business model, upstream, downstream, and how you decide on the circular business model. It could be a managerial decision, but it is often a strategic governance decision. Or it could be external through networks, and again, different strategies are deployed from informality to through supply chains and organizations. Next slide. And next. So I'm reminding you of my structure of cooperative networks, and here is what the examples. So on the informal, it's now outside of the blue box, is what I used to have in the blue box. So informal is, you can find an example in communities of practice, but you also have, I'll bring up Scottish Agricultural Organization Society as one of my examples here, cases, and they have informal meetings of chairs of their member cooperatives, about 60 member co-ops. So it's, you can have this informality in a more structured way, but still there is no contract behind it, there's no organization behind it. It's more of sharing of experiences. Circular value chains. This is co-op to co-op business, an example, but again, there are others. So in the circular economy is what I'm pointing out here, so that your community of practice, as reflected for circularity, and there is one in Quebec under the umbrella of CECUSEM, the umbrella organization for the province. So circular value chains in co-op to co-op business. You can have second-tier cooperatives for circular design, and those are co-ops with co-op members, obviously, as are the associations and federations who may lead cooperative networks for circularity. And this is an interesting aspect that I will stress when I get to my examples here, because associations and federations as a feature of cooperative Principle 6 are really driving this agenda often. And you will find them as leaders, so they're not your steered theoretical case, but they're really associations who engage their membership in circular design, which is different and innovative. And then the multi-stakeholder networks, where again, we'll find some of these examples. So keep going, Rafael, and get me to my examples. So I think it will be bringing, so yeah, two more, you'll see nice pictures. There. Okay, case, whoop, one up. There. Okay, so the cases, so you'll, again, the theory part, we're working on from the literature, but also thinking about what co-ops, what innovative things co-ops bring to the table. And these are some, a couple of case studies. One that we are now starting to look at in Quebec, Coop Carbon. But when you look at Coop Carbon, you're really looking at a whole bunch of other networked entities. So Coop Carbon was created when there was the opportunity for carbon trading. The new market opened up, carbon trading opened up, and the first bubble on the left, Fondation, which is an investment fund of trade unions in Quebec, Desjardins Credit Union Network, La Coop Fédérée, currently called Solio. They were also the founding member of Coop Carbon, C3E and ACME, Association in Quebec for Management of Energy Efficiency Management. So you had these multi-stakeholder group that created, and co-ops included, obviously, with the social funds, social finance, institutions and energy institutions in Quebec. They created Coop Carbon to provide leadership and provide expertise in carbon trading and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions as a mandate. So they had to go external because this was not what they were doing in-house. This was not like, they could have, of course, circular models in-house, but they wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. And so this became a multi-stakeholder cooperative. However, they did not have the built expertise, so they acquired EcoResource, which was a private business with the expertise in carbon trading. And so EcoResource really became Coop Carbon. So it was a shell, it was an idea, it was a co-op that they started, but then they had to acquire expertise and they bought the enterprise. And the enterprise owner became the manager and still is, with provision of this expertise globally. They were really present in multiple continents and countries. So this is a multi-stakeholder co-op and a spin-off for circular design or for this particular carbon trading issue. But then Coop Carbon itself has different projects in different industries, and one of them is Warwick, Coop Agri Energy. But others I'll just mention are in transport, in transit mobility. They're in providing services on carbon trading to different organizations and enterprises. And they also do housing now, building of low energy housing, right? And so next picture shows yeah, you can keep it there. So Warwick, this spin-off cooperative, was created by Coop Carbon in order to have circular design in agriculture. So members of this one, implemented or founded by Coop Carbon with farmers. They have producer members, and they're circular. They produce. They own anaerobic digestion plant to produce biofuel. So you see there that farmers own this plant. They use the fertilizer as a byproduct of the process. In their production process, they have feedstock collection and supply to the plant, right, and organic waste as well. And then they produce renewable natural energy gas and complete the circle. So it's really an interesting model. And now the interesting thing also is that in their governance structure, you have different farmers who are the owners of this process, but Coop Carbon which is this multi-stakeholder cooperative, is their manager. They manage the circularity of the Warwick plant. So it's really an unusual and very cooperative, embedded model that's really kind of interesting, and I'm looking forward to what we find. We just started with interviews and discussions. And next picture is the second case that I will bring in my short time, and I'll be done soon. This one is SAOS, the Scottish Agricultural Organization Society that I mentioned. They're the second tier federation, they are a federation. They have 60 producer cooperatives, and they do different things, and among them, the climate change is high risk on their agenda. And so now they use spin-offs as well, and they created two entities, or I think more than that. By the way, when Rafael mentioned circular machine sharing, SAOS has that machine sharing in their structures. They have these rings, they call them machinery rings, and farmers who actually share equipment. But Scotty ID, it was their first spin-off, and it is the data creation and data ownership multi-stakeholder entity, right? Where they have different interested stakeholders from government down to, but farmers are owners and farmers are members. They produce the data, and as data producers, they're also the owners of data. But data is used in order to have smarter production, in order to have efficiencies and climate, address climate concerns. And the other one is C2N. C2N is the Cultivating Collaboration Network, it's called. This is a newer one, and they are about, among other things, they work on farm decarbonization. So they want to decarbonize at the farm level, right? But they have other interesting projects on the go. And I think that's it. So apologies for the speed, but we've run out of time. So that's it from me. Thank you.
In the chat, we have a question from Caio Silva. Caio, please, if you want to do the question directly, feel free for it. Caio.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Sonja. Thank you, Rafael. Sonja, I think you kind of answered my question. I'm really excited about your work and Anupusa's work on the dual nature. And this is something that we face a lot in Brazil. And I see that cooperative organizations, they are really well positioned to embrace a circular economy paradigm, let's call it like this. Mostly because of our cooperative values and the cooperative principles and everything. So they're really well positioned to do this. My question is, in Brazil, we have a really stark competitive environment. We have lots of foreign funds, mostly from Asia, coming and ditching lots of money here in for-profit organizations. And I would like to understand how you see some strategies of how they can adopt those circular economy practices, but at the same time remain competitive against the inflow of resources that for profits and competitors they are receiving, and and they are gaining strength. So the question is, how do we nurture this dual nature in a paradoxical way in order to get to the circular economy goal that we have here?
Yeah, I'm sure Rafael has his opinion there as well. So I'll answer first, and then Rafael give you some time. To me, the world is moving in the direction where cooperatives have an advantage. You have sustainability indicators, you have ESG, the environmental, social, governance concerns, you have regulators going in that direction, and the rest of the planet has to struggle to prove that they're doing a good job, right? But cooperatives struggle as well, unfortunately. So this is about data collection. That's why Scotty ID project is really important, because you need associations, you need groupings to help get that data and show that they're actually a better investment than the competition. In some instances, depends on the industry you're in. If you need or could use external funds, then showing to social investors, there's social finance investments that are huge in Quebec. Quebec is really, I think, a leader in this, where you have social investors, long-term patient capital that really want to achieve sustainability. But again, I think it goes to cooperative advantage to actually say, ho, we're already doing this. We've been doing this forever, and just now we need indicators, we need tools, we need to show it, and the work of Elisangela and Rafael and me on indicators that show that you're not greenwashing. So the types of indicators that we really contextualize, especially environmental, but then on the social, co-ops have an advantage. I mean, they're structured to address social issues. Anyway, I think we need to just get on with this agenda because it's moving in this direction, and co-ops need to be faster in showing what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I agree that in principle there should be some efficiency gains from mutualization, right? That's presumably why people did it to begin with. At the same time, Caio, and I think that's what you're saying, right? There's a lot of capital that can skew the competition, and then it becomes really hard. And so I think what's very interesting in circular economy too, for example, this morning we had here in Quebec, we have something, it's called the Feuille de Route. There is a kind of process to create a roadmap for Quebec for circular economy. And there it's very clear from the discussions with, many different actors that one key priority for circular economy will be ensuring that there is a process towards more regional production for meeting needs. And that, of course, especially means, for example, agriculture, right? And I think the implication of this is, if you really want to have these kind of markets and have sustainability, we know we need to have more regional value chains, but we also need to make sure that they are protected, right? That they are that you have regulation that says, okay, you can bring your strawberries from California, but then you also need to pay the carbon costs of doing this. And at the same time, vice versa, say if you do your local value chain, that should be valorized. And I think so. For me, the implication of this is that the co-ops, and this is, I think, where these from Sonja's typology, the federations are maybe the most important. They really need to think of themselves as political actors who have a role to play to say, rules are always being made and remade. In Europe, you have the interesting example of the RESCOP, the Energy Co-op Federation, to get involved and say there is a lot of money going all the time, also in circular economy, right? About who is getting this money, who is making the rules, that that this environment is actually one where at least there is a fair, equal playing field for different actors. Because I agree with you, otherwise it's hard, of course, to compete with some people of much more capital. That's for sure. Same in renewable energies, right?
And may I just add to this that internally in the co-op movement, you also have problems, and managers of co-ops are often nowadays coming from external expertise and not being educated in the co-op model. And that's a huge problem that we have. So in this large, big competitive world, they compete on what they know was of yesterday's business school learning. And it's really a challenge internally to not compete with each other, which I think they're doing in some industries, and to actually educate leaders in cooperatives about the co-op model and its advantage. So that's a two-pronged issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sonia, Professor Rafael. Does anyone have more questions?
I have a question. Can I again?
Okay.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Andrea. Rafael again. Sonia, I just finished my PhD right now, and one of the things I listened on my presentation that I didn't use a network governance analysis, and that's something that I would like to do later. We'll continue researching. I searched the history of credit cooperative in Brazil with 100 years, and I would like to continue researching this cooperative or the credit system in general. But the point is, how do you see a pattern on cooperative governance network governance. So is there a point, there's a turning point in this century-old cooperatives that we can see, okay, at this point, members started delegating for external director, or there is a turning point where the cooperative will build a second-tier institution so that they will have better governance on this. Do you see, when you analyze in a historical time, can you check where is this turning point, or in Canada or in other parts of the world?
That's a rough question, and I think this is your second PhD right there. So it's, yeah, a lot can be said. I don't know what the turning point would be, but I think in what we're talking about here, when there is a particular problem, a particular issue that co-ops need to address, they create emergent networks. And this is complexity. So I think you need to study them under complexity umbrella, and how how networks, complex systems emerge. So because this is an emergent property, it's really important that you have the common values that you can pin it on. So who are you going to network with? Who are you going to collaborate with? So some sense of how the emergent is happening may be found in the shared values and why they're so ready to jump in on it. So regionality, I think Rafael nailed it. When it's regional, you know the people, you know who they are, you know their reputation, you know who you will attach your name to and who you won't, right? But it's very tricky when you rely on markets to do that. And I don't think that's helpful to the co-op model. Anyway, a lot to talk about. So stay in touch. And if you want to join the network, I think we'll find some room for you to look at Brazilian cases.
Thank you.
Maybe just to add to that, I think at least in the Canadian credit unions, I'm not an expert in that, but I think for the co-op values, what is a kind of a big, ambivalent thing is the digital transformation, which is partly has centralization tendencies, right? And I think that's a really interesting question for the network analysis too, because how software is developed is a very decisive factor on how who has power then over the use of this. And you can see this for banking, but also for the delivery services where you have a lot of co-ops driving cyclists, but then you have the question who owns the platform. So I think there's a big question between this distributed and centralizing tendencies, also linked to the kind of technologies that are being developed. So that's, I think, one thing. And that's why in the circular economy, we want to have also one dimension technology, to see who chooses the technology, who develops technology, because I think that's partly the answer. Nice. And the other one, I suspect, I don't know what Sonja thinks about it, is, and I don't know if there will be parallels, but so in the Quebec history, at least, these kind of networks, they were also driven by cultural values. In that case of independence from, Canada, French, Anglophone, these kind of things. So the big question for me there is, can values of sustainability and bioregion develop similar kind of, sources of energy that people say, okay, we are here together against something where we really need to do something? That I think would be very interesting to better understand, right? For what Sonja said is emergent responses. If you have floods in south of Brazil, what kind of solidarity, cohesion can this also create that people say, oh yes, that's an emergency, like in a war, where people say, okay, we need to be rational about resources and do something together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? More questions? No? Okay. Professors Rafael and Sonja, I move on to our final words, please.
Oh, you want us to wrap up? Okay, well, as I said, thank you for the opportunity. This was rushed, but unfortunately, due to technology. But the key to me is to continue to have these conversations, because everything we're talking about is very much context dependent. And I will give you one quick example. When I was in Brasilia last whatever, 2 weeks ago, we visited the trash picking, what do you call them? Waste picking cooperative, right? Waste pickers. And while we talk about waste pickers as the bottom of the pyramid when it comes to circularity, right? Or to waste being produced, we don't want it being produced, but when it is produced, what do you do with it, right? It was really impressive to see people on the ground who actually see cooperative as the ability to get their dignity back. So it was really about dignity. This was the woman talking to us was a third generation waste picker in her family. So she looked at her grandfather, then the father, and then she, having organized in the cooperative network of networks, actually she was the one who put the sash on Lula when he was inaugurated president. That was the woman who talked to us. So this dignity and this return to humanity was really the key to her in the co-op sector. And they're very much aware that they want to go up the chain, right? But, and are working on it. But it was really eye-opening for me to say, okay, so co-ops do embed socially, right? They really do this on the ground, even in the place where you don't think about it, right? Anyway, so thank you for the invitation, and I hope we will have opportunities to hear more about Brazil and your cooperatives, because you're huge, you have many, and we know little about them, unfortunately, in the Anglo-Saxon world. Yeah. Rafael.
Yeah. So I fully agree with Sonja, right? So that this social solidarity economy more general is a very important field right now for when we still talk about sustainable development. Unfortunately, we still have to talk about it. And I think that the development of sustainable development can be in a very interesting way embodied by a social solidarity economy, such as the waste pickers that Sonja mentioned, but many other types of these organizations too that are both social and at the same time really at the front of responding to all these pressures, right? Like as well illustrated by the waste pickers. And the other point I wanted to make, also linked to the comment by Sonja with learning more about what's happening in Brazil. I just wanted to share with you the link that next summer in Montreal in July, there will be the Global Co-op Research Conference. And Sonja is also in the steering committee. We discussed last week, we would really be very happy to have a very diverse, regionally plural conference. So if you have time, would like to participate, we would be very happy. We are also very interested in topic proposals. If you say there is themes, Kaya was talking about, competition and co-ops, or the network analysis materials or other topics. I think we would be really very interested. Also, what you say, this is topics that are important for us. That we can make sure when in fall we start organizing properly. We know what is of interest for you, because we would hope it will be a nice place for dialogue, that conference. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. And Sonja, if you want to know anything about our cooperatives here in Brazil, we are here for you to anything, and we are very strong. I'm from CICRED. It's a credit institution who has that has a real important role here in Brazil at not only in these catastrophes, but in the growth of the people, education, really following all the principles of our beloved cooperativism. And we're here if anything you want to know about our roles here. We will be really glad to inform you and continue chatting about it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael, everybody.
Thank you. Sonja, talk with you in Dundee.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
I'll see you soon. Yeah. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.